so I guess the TLDR here is they basically decided to remove, other than Tyrannical and Fortified, every single affix that you know. If you hated Storming, not because it bricked your key, but because it was mildly annoying, good. If, like, I don't know, bolstering and stuff like that ended up bricking a run because of a simple mistake, that's also gone. You'll probably be happy. So what's the stuff that's been removed, I think, wasn't fun. Like, at least personally, I've never really looked at those particular affixes and thought, oh, great, volcanic, yeah, gameplay variation. What it's been replaced with is, I think, broadly better, but it does have design pitfalls, and in a few areas, it risks going against some principles that they wanted to implement, but in a case like that, I guess it's a cost-benefit analysis. So to give people the TLDR, just so that we're all caught up to speed and we can kind of like have the discussion on a good foundation, right. This is still the new system, so Mythic Plus 2 here is the equivalent of Mythic Plus 12 in the old system the Dragonflight shipped with. A Mythic 0 dungeon is the equivalent of a Mythic Plus 10, but it has no affixes and no timer. The Mythic Plus side of the system then kicks in, and from what we understand anyway, it seems that it's relevant to gearing from levels 2 to 10, or perhaps at maximum 2 to 12. And the way that they're handling affixes is actually completely different. So your very first affix in any Mythic Plus will be Xal'atath's Bargain. Xal'atath's Bargain is basically, if you were to imagine an affix that is quite important, but not as important as an old seasonal affix. It's themed around Xal'atath. There are 4 of them. We've tested 1 so far.
Only one of them.
Yeah, there's 4 in total. Those will be different every week. Right?
Only know 2 of them as well.
Yeah, the other 2 we just completely unknown. These are Kiss Curse affixes as well. That basically means that yes, they will provide you some form of challenge to overcome, but if you do a good job of that, you'll get some sort of reward. And it means that a skilled party who do it right will probably feel like a beneficiary of this affix change.
Yeah, I think the best example of this is probably Frenzied here, which is non-boss enemies become frenzied at 30% health remaining, increasing their haste by a whopping 40%. That's going to be scary, but they take out 20% extra damage, which means if this is a stunnable enemy, perchance, or something like that, or you've got everyone coordinated, you go, well, that's a dangerous enemy. It's about to hit. Okay, everyone train it, hit, aim for it, get your interrupt rotations ready to go for the 40% haste. Maybe stun it if you can, and just destroy it. And like once you get people cycling and like targeting focus that way, or going for a hold AoE CC until everything's 30%, and then we'll blow it up. Stuff like that is kind of the important part there.
Yeah. So your challenge is to minimize the damage and to maximize the benefit. And I guess there's a little bit of texture that'll vary week to week depending on your class. If you have an execute, then you'll probably feel great that your execute will just do 20% more damage, especially if it crits. That'll be juicy. So that's the Xal'atath's Bargain stuff. Those, 1 will be active. It rotates every week. At Mythic Plus 4, Tyrannical or Fortified will become active. Okay? At Mythic Plus 7, a new one is active that's called Challenger's Peril. So Challenger's Peril, rather than being bolstering or sanguine or anything like that, it simply increases the death penalty from a 5-second hit to the timer per player death to a 15-second. That is a lot more punishing. However, I guess what the devs are thinking is this makes death more punishing, but because there's less affix bullshit, in theory, it should be a fair punishment because the dungeon should feel more learnable. That's likely their gambit, or at the very least, they want in this to capture the risk of some of their affixes, but to do so in a way that essentially does not impact game mechanics.
Yeah, that's clearly it. They clearly, like, you look at the numbers, and they've done this every time so far. They've wanted the key points, or the break points rather, or where your keystone suddenly gets harder for some reason. And this is the fun version of, we want it to be harder at 7, but we're not going to put another affix in. Yeah. Which is, you look at it and go, well, what's the point of doing that? And you kind of think, well, if you sit back and think, what's the alternative? What other universe could these developers have spawned? And I can rarely think of a better one than this.
Yeah.
Considering operating under the principle that they will have a breakpoint.
I mean, if you think about it like this, okay, what will this result in? On average, more of the timer will be lost to deaths. And you can achieve that by increasing the impact on the timer of a death, or you can try to do it by increasing the number of deaths. I think this emphasizes the risk reward in a way that minimally interferes with what a player wants to do, which is exactly what some of the affixes at their worst could do in the past, where it's not that there's a punishment, it's that it feels unfair, it's that it feels bullshit, and that it feels external. Like, if you die to a thing that feels just external to the dungeon, you're just sitting there like, oh, great, somebody walked into a sanguine pool with a really stupid mistake. Or we messed up bolstering and it's taken 18 months to kill a mob. You're just angry. I'm not, unhappy about that. I think a more healthy form of difficulty is, risk reward in a context of predictability and not increasing cognitive load, which is exactly what that achieves. The final thing then, and this was initially controversial, I think it caused a bit of sticker shock. Not sticker shock, but your first reaction is, whoa, what the fuck? And that is that at Mythic plus 10, the other main affix kicks in. So if Fortified kicked in at Mythic plus 4, Tyrannical will kick in at Mythic plus 10.
On top of Fortified.
On top of Fortified, you'll have both active. Now, a lot of, if you're not pushing keys, you might look at that and think, sweet Jesus, what have they done? That's insane. I cannot imagine this. There's, I think, two main points that I would want to make. One, a lot of the more competitive players who actually enjoy pushing, it's push. Look, right? Every week is push week. Isn't that crazy? So they've basically done this so that at the absolute top echelons of this gameplay system, regardless of what week it is, at a plus 10, you have both on. It's like that every single week. That's it. And for a lot of people who enjoy the competitive aspect of this, and the players who really enjoy to challenge themselves, the type of challenge that those players enjoy is not one that involves their challenge being changed all the time, because I guess they want to practice. And I guess maybe the really newbie version, or the more accessible version of that is, if an action RPG is just kind of well balanced and doesn't feel like it's got too much bullshit, even if it's decently hard, you can just get into the flow and just keep on going and going and going and engaging in that mastery loop in a really clean way. Whereas if one week it's Tyrannical, the other week it's Fortified, that you don't really get that. You don't get that. And the problem that WoW would then have, and it's one that I don't know if me or you would ever feel it, but Dark Horse certainly would, where if you want to, you want to get a higher rating, don't bother doing that dungeon on, whatever week it is, because the combination of affixes just means it's bullshit and you may as well not spend your time. And that feels awful.
Yeah, I mean, you're actually jumping the gun a little bit, because that is all true for Tyrannical and Fortified being their 10. But for 10 and 11, and this is interesting, for 10 and 11, you still get Xal'atath's bargain swapping around. So it will be, say you're doing a 10 one week, and it'll be the bargain where it's the frenzy, the haste. So you figure out, okay, well, stone over, blah, 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 blah. Say for some reason you're not an execute class, you don't enjoy that very much, whatever. Fine, come back the next week, and it'll still be a 10, it'll still be 11. It will still be the same dungeon in terms of how the mobs and bosses are scaled, which is going to remove a huge amount of the variation week to week.
There's one difference.
Yeah, it's not going to be, why are mobs one-shotting me this week when they weren't last week? The only difference will be that, say, maybe the other one will be active, which we didn't really explain, but there's Xal'atath's Bargain Ascendant, which are these orbs, which are, if you did the Razageth fight, the Razageth orbs that you need to disrupt, either be a stop, a stun, interrupt, that thing. They'll come down, she'll appear, hover over you.
I saw people running through them.
No.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was people running through them at the same time that one of their allies did a stop or something.
It would have been. Running through them is nothing. They need to be disrupted. So those are the ones where if players disrupt these orbs, they claim a haste and movement speed for themselves. If you don't, And it's very heavily weighted on the risk versus reward. If you get them all, because there's 20 orbs that like spawn in waves, if you get them all, that's a lot of orbs to interrupt, by the way. You're going to need AoE for that. And also be patient till they all spawn. That'll give you 20% haste. Every missed orb gives the enemy 10% haste.
Yeah.
So hit them please, or your tank will be very unhappy.
The thing is, though, I noticed when I was looking at people's gameplay, the buff is party-wide.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's the whole party will get 20% haste if you do that mechanic right. So
yeah, that was my first thought. I was like, am I kind of trolling here by being a prop paladin and just blinding lighting like 10 of them at once? Am I trolling? And then I noticed, I checked, I was like, oh no, I'm fine, okay.
What I like about that is it's a great point of power for you as a paladin, and then somebody in your team's like, sick, the paladin just did his big shiny, and now I have more haste.
Yeah.
The only other little thing, the final thing before we hit what they do at plus 12, I believe, or at least I assume, that the very best gear available at an end of run will max out at Mythic plus 11.
I'm assuming 10 because they haven't said they're changing this.
I remember them... I remember at some point they said that, or at the very least for crests, they've notched up where you get certain crests because basically they felt that there was not a fair parity between the challenge and reward of Mythic Plus and Raid. And whenever these things are imbalanced, then one begins to eat the other. So if you're a raider and you feel stupid for raiding because you feel like Mythic Plus is a way better way to get not necessarily the exact bit of gear that you want, but just super high item level gear, then you'll feel bad when you're raiding. And if a raid gives way too much gear, then you'll feel stupid doing Mythic Plus. So they got to be in balance. I'm not sure if maybe...
It does imply that anyway. It does imply that... 12 is where it becomes, this is the high score mode.
Yeah, and that's the really interesting thing. So in their blog post, Blizzard basically said that in the past, they were trying to do a one-size-fits-all solution with how their affixes were working, where it's always the same system, it's just more of them come online. What they basically realized is for the top-end people, you don't want to be trying to do, say, a speed run in Super Meat Boy, but the timing of the environmental threats or whatever is just slightly different from week to week.
That would actually literally undermine the entire video game.
Yeah, and they've realized that that's actually what it was happening in Mythic Plus. So 2 things happen at Mythic Plus 12. Number 1 is Xal'atath's Bargain is disabled.
So it's the same dungeon every single week.
Yep, you have Tyrannical is active, Fortified is active, and all of that basically means is all the mobs are strong, and it will scale more aggressively as you move from level to level. There is zero keystone variation. And Xal'atath's Bargain, it gets disabled, and then Xal'atath's Guile is a buff on enemies.
Yep, just a flat damage and health buff by 20%, which will also go on top of Fortified and Tyrannical to be a third modifier on top of the dungeons itself modifier. So people are certainly going, I hope they can keep on top of all of this mathematically and numerically, because that's a lot of numbers to keep in your mind.
But I have a thought there.
Oh no, not
the
those.
more gradually the scaling goes, the more that the players will sort of be edging their way higher and higher and higher, but by cheesing it, or by only doing it in the most optimal week with the best set of affixes in the current system. Maybe they wanted to scale a bit more aggressively so that they effectively just limit some of that. Maybe. I'm not exactly sure. What I did see is loads of players who are really deep into Mythic Plus basically saying, oh, it's the same every week, thank God. I can focus on the thing that I think is fun, which is improving my character, having a super optimal build, learning how to play, learning how to build my character for different dungeons, and learning, different comps with my friends. That's what they enjoy. They don't really enjoy the affixes. And it was interesting that Blizzard themselves said that they thought that sort of normal or lower end players get a variety benefit from affixes being there and rotating, while they acknowledge that it's not good for the competitive experience. I thought that was interesting because as one of those casual low end players, at least in the context of Mythic Plus, I never felt that variation served me. And I think that's because, I remember we were doing something in Mythic Plus, and you reminded me of the Keystone website, and its little, I don't know if it was what it would put in your browser bar, but the tagline was like, what bullshit will I have to deal with this week?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, is Xal'atath's bargain some bullshit you'll have to deal with?
Yes.
Yeah. And we can get into that and their principles. But because you benefit from it, it feels like there is a sense of action, and that means that it's more within your sphere of control. And even if you don't directly control it in the way that you don't directly control the frenzied effect, well, whenever you use an execute move, it'll be really chunky and that'll feel good. So you at least feel like you're getting some form of benefit. And I think that's way more healthy. Plus, big thing, one thing changes a week, that's it. And so Fortified and Tyrannical, they will swap at what level they become active at. That will make things feel a bit different. But fundamentally, it's just one affix where, Xal'atath's Bargain is a set of 4 affixes that are replacing all 8 other ones we used to have. And that's sort of that. And the criticism is, because in the past, in fact, 3 weeks ago, because it was what struck me about how agile they appear to be. Because whenever they posted those changes onto beta, the initial ones where basically different schools of magic would get preferential treatment every week, which of course meant if you use chaos magic, you're OP.
That was so half-baked. It's unbelievable how half-baked that was.
And the thing that's crazy, right? Because you might have thought that slipped its way onto beta, and this has got a proper reveal and announcement and nice graphics. No, that past design that we didn't like had a blue post explaining it and their intent. So within the space of like 2 weeks, they seemingly listened to player feedback. Like I remember one of the things that we were talking about on stream is just theme it after Xal'atath. She's the villain of the expansion. Make her pull funny shit. And it was really funny. 2 weeks later, bam, there it is. And it was way more
without any new assets either, because they have a Xal'atath model, they have the Cosmic Orb models, so all they had to do was, and there's no like sound effects or voiceover for her, so I can imagine they just fired this together in like in no time. But whatever form of inspiration took, or maybe this was like one of the things on the drawing board they had written down they were going to attempt at some point, because obviously maybe they didn't ship that and say, oh shit, we're out of ideas, they didn't like that one, oh god, what do we do? More of a, I didn't like that one. That's fine. We'll just try the next one.
Yeah.
Try the next one.
Like, do you remember the Blizzard of Azerite Armor?
Oh yeah, the Blizzard of Azerite Armor, where, it's literally, we would like to change this, but that's going to be at least an expansion away. And you're like, spot on, boys.
And that was only after they admitted that with like patch 8.1. I remember, and it's funny because, Lore was the guy who had to make the post. And I suppose it's funny because back then, we're all very in the trenches and we're all like, oh my god, I cannot believe that Blizzard, posted by Lore in the forums, have said this terrible thing. And a lot of that was actually justified because they were being really pig-headed. The Blizzard of that time was really pig-headed. And one of the reasons why Shadowlands looked the way that it did is because they did not respond pragmatically and with emotional rawness to the feedback of BFA. I shall say no more. And I guess it's sort of grapevine stuff. But I bring it up because of the contrast between then and now. Which is that, in 2 weeks, not only did they just like change the design, that's radically different.
It's radically different, and it's well considered.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But it's not completely considered, which I think is fun. Because I see people...
Let's take them down.
Yeah, I see people... No, this isn't taking them down. People are asking about it in chat. People are asking in chat about, like, dungeon score. I was like, they haven't figured that out yet. Because obviously you look at it, you go, well... you've got your bucket of change here, right? Where under 2 and 4, it's your variety, every week variety. And then under here, it's like, well, it gets a bit tougher. Under 7, 10, it goes, well, now this changes every week. But, if I do a keystone of 10 on week 1 and then on week 2, do I get more points? Do I get more score? Or no? Because Fortified and Tyrannical are the things that split the week in terms of where your score comes from.
It'll be awkward.
So it'll be fun if they manage to decide this. And that ultimately means, well, you don't have to do your key twice now if you want to score. If you're good enough now, if you're good enough and geared enough to just bomb straight into a 10 or an 11 and do that, then you could finish KSM in 1 week.
That if totally applies to me. I'll do that in week 1 because I'm a pro gamer. Just we're both pro gamers.
Exactly. We're very, very good. Please don't watch any of the footage from the Dells video where I play like a fucking moron. Did you know that I did the entirety of the underwater delve as a druid? It wasn't until my second run I realized I could restore my breath by going into aquatic form. I just didn't think about it.
Bro, forgot you were a seal?
I died multiple times to being out of breath before I realized I can just go seal form.
And made it into script?
Yeah, and that's why you play the game multiple times before you come up with any ideas. Anyway.
And it's a really good way of, depending on what class you've chosen and what sort of character race you've chosen, you'll have a few little maybe unique strengths in a few of the delves. Now, I don't think that that's really even keel across the game, and that is a problem. But I don't know, I think it's nice that you're a dwarf, and that means you can do a cool dwarf thing. I think the other thing with this is, I think in the past, they would have looked at the problem with Mythic plus score, and they just said, I can't do this idea, because it's got to be firmly divided.
Yeah, we have to have the weekly alteration, or else the game breaks apart.
I guess what I hope for with this... I suppose I like the idea that you're getting a little bit of progression between 2, and 2 and 3 give you a little bit of progression in any dungeon that you do, on like both of your scores in a way. And then whether it's tyrannical or fortified between 4 and 9, that's giving you the tyrannical or fortified side of your score. And then, as you pointed out, if you do it at plus 10, you get both, which would feel really awesome. And I actually think that would, for players who are geared to the tits from the last tier, it would feel really good for them to knock that out as quickly as they could without having to wait for loads of weeks to change. And I think that would be a really good positive feedback loop that would have players feeling that they get a real good tangible benefit from their progress last tier into the current tier, which is a problem the game suffers from.
Yeah, that's not going to be super relevant here, just because item level of going up 10 levels is kind of big. That said, obviously I think the numbers are close enough to final for item level, and I didn't start to play, I did not play this season very much whatsoever. I'm at item level, I think it's a bunch of 5-10 pieces mostly on my paladin around there. And that was the character I copied to level with. And I didn't start replacing them until I was basically max.
Oh, shit.
I mean, I was replacing them with Explorer gear when I was max. But at the same time...
You were max?
I have...
Notable world first raider.
That was me, yes. So that was... that won't be a thing for the expansion launch. Realistically, unless there's some super busted trinket that people hold for a while. But generally speaking, it is mostly going to be a thing from the tiers going forward.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, as it's always been anyway, it'll just be, you get your KSM, what's it called? The token, the Mark of Mastery, that's called.
Yes.
Yeah, the Mark of Mastery week 1, basically, which I'm sure people already do from doing 15's River.